Living Clean, Living Well is a present of the Canadian Centre for Abuse Awareness and is brought to you by Freedom from Addiction.
You're watching Living Clean, Living Well, live here on CTS. So glad to see you. My name is Teresa Cruz, and I'll be your host for tonight, as I am always. Good to see everybody. It is just the 1st, and this will kick off a month-long series of shows that we're going to be doing about coping with the holidays. Let's face it, life has got a lot of challenges for us to deal with, and the month of December seems to add to it. My panelists for this evening, Dr. Vera Tarman.
Hello. Good
to see you. And Dee Christensen joins us, Editor-in-Chief from Recovery Wire magazine. Good to have you aboard again, Dee.
Thank you, always a pleasure.
So Dr. let's start things off about the month of December and the challenges that it brings.
Yeah, well, you know, the month of December is the time of temptations, the beginning of temptations, and people who are in recovery are going to be faced with the offers for special drinks, special foods, all sorts of things that might easily derail a person.
Dee?
You know, there's a reason we call it the silly season. This is the time to utilize whatever coping mechanisms that you can find. So Recovery Wire is covering a lot of that this season. Yeah.
Our toll-free lines are going to be open to you right away. As always, we are here for any general questions that you may have, as well as on topic. Maybe there's some things that you've done to cope through the month of December, going to all those parties, and like Dr. Tarman says, coping with all the temptations that are out there. You can't shut your life down. It's important to live your life, but it's also important too that you stay on track. And tonight's show and the series of shows that we're going to be doing throughout the month of December, that is going to be our goal for you. Just before we get started, I just wanted to tell you about the Canadian Centre for Abuse Awareness's annual fundraising drive. It is Derringer's 13 Days of Christmas, and it kicked off today. This is just a fabulous, fabulous fundraiser that John Derringer and the Q107 morning crew have done for us for a few years now. They have raised millions for people that are struggling throughout, with life, with abuse and bad things happening in their life. And it's wonderful that we are able to raise funds and toys for children that are caught up in bad situations. It's just an absolutely wonderful time of year for all of us. So folks in the Southern Ontario region can listen live on Q107. And if you're joining us from across Canada, you can listen. And we talk about entrepreneurs, and we talk about people that have come from humble beginnings and have gone on to great success. And so this is what I've been working on when I'm not hosting Living Clean, Living Well. And I had some big news this week because we launched on Amazon.com and we shot right up to #1 bestseller. So it was
that's great.
Yeah, I know. I was really thrilled. So I just wanted to share my good news with you. And if you would like a copy of this book, if you are so inspired to maybe start your own business, you can find it on Amazon.com at theincredibility.com. Factor. So at Amazon.com. So anyway, folks, let's talk about coping with the holidays. And Recovery Wire magazine has brought in 10 top tips on what we can do to get through the month of December. So here we are, the top 10 ways to cope through the holidays. #1 on this list is laughter. Dr. Tarman?
Okay, well, laughter is an excellent way to cope with stress because it does two things. One, when you laugh, you have to breathe and you stimulate the diaphragm, which puts you into relaxation mode. That's the first thing. And then the second thing it does is it releases endorphins, and endorphins are the neurochemical that makes bad things feel good.
#2 on our list is a phone call a day. Dee?
This is about reaching out once a day to people who will offer you support and stability. It's about just getting a reminder every day that you're cared about by someone who offers you unconditional support.
#3 on the list, avoid stimulants.
Okay, so what kind of stimulants are we constantly bombarded with? Caffeine, sugar, chocolate, and this is a time of great anxiety, and just having these stimulants will only make you more anxious.
#4 on our list is sound advice. And now advice is always good, but when you take a look at sound advice, Dee, it's not quite what we think it is.
No, sound advice is all about sound as a stimulant, and sound is a stimulant, so we're going to replace all of those loud, stimulating sounds with soothing sounds to get us through the holidays.
Like music and things like that?
Yeah, like change your alarm to a nice, soothing nature sound. Yeah, it's about reducing all of the noise clutter.
And not Christmas carols, please.
Number 5, make sure that you stick to a routine.
Okay, so one of the biggest problems is it disrupts our routine. And for people who are in recovery, part of the problem, part of the reason, it's not just the temptations, it's the disruption to the routine. Because usually the recovery is based on routinized factors, like I go to meetings, I do this, I do that, and that's lost. So finding routine, finding an element of safety is key.
One of my favorite ones on the list is comfort, comfort, comfort.
Yeah, this is all about warm foods and fuzzy blankets. You're going to allow yourself, when you're feeling stressed out, to treat yourself the way Grandma would.
As in?
As in
Cookies, warm milk.
Yeah, warm milk and cookies and PJs.
A blanket, dear.
Yeah,
Flannel.
a nice big
Flannel.
a terry cloth onesie if you need to.
With little feet?
That's right, with the feet and the little bum patch. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, there we go. Number 7, make sure that you challenge that negative self-talk that always creeps into our minds.
It's negative self, one of those things you don't even notice you're doing it. But you know, from the body point of view, every time you have a negative self, what you're doing is you're adding internal stress. And you know, Christmas is such a time of external stresses that what you want to do is soothe the internal environment. So get rid of the negative self-talk and put in positive affirmations.
And make sure, you know, they always say, raise your expectations, but maybe this time of year, Dee, you're suggesting to lower your expectations.
Absolutely. This is all about, we tell ourselves the holidays are supposed to be joyous and amazing, and this Christmas is going to be the best, and families are going to unite, and it's going to be incredible and rejoicing. And the truth is, it's just a day. So let's lower our expectations to a manageable height so we don't disappoint ourselves and stress ourselves out unnecessarily.
Number 9 on our top 10 ways to cope through the holidays is to help others.
Yes, if you help, the first things that happens is you stop thinking about yourself. And when you think about yourself, there's that negative self-talk. It seems to be what always happens. So focusing on others by helping others is good. The other thing is it makes you realize that if you help somebody else, you've got something to give. So it indirectly allows you to appreciate yourself.
And number 10 on our list, reduce family stress.
There are a few really amazing things to keep in mind during this season. One of the first, there is no such thing as a super parent. There is no such thing as a super kid. We're going to set realistic standards, and we're going to choose commitments carefully. There's no reason to overextend yourselves. You have plenty of time. It's just one day.
And there's no perfect family gathering.
No, there's no perfect. We're all a little bit crazy. That's what makes us delicious.
Like the National Lampoon Chevy
That's
Chase's
right.
Christmas, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
That one cracks me up all
Me
the time.
too.
Yeah. Where such a group of characters get together and try to have that one big day. But you're so right. It's literally just a day.
It's just a day, yeah. And we do it throughout the year, you know. We set ourselves up that the weekend is going to be great, you know, and let's just stay present. Let's just enjoy the moment and set some realistic goals. And there's no reason to make it the best ever. There's no such thing. Yeah.
Dr. Tarman, in your practice at Renascent, do people come to you in challenges of the season?
Oh, it's a big stressor. The Christmas time is such a big stressor, and it's often the family thing.
Yeah.
You know, they're either alone and they feel their aloneness because there's the perception that everybody else has got the perfect environment and they don't, or they're in a family setting and then it's not perfect. Yeah, it's a big stressor.
And Dee, yourself, you've always been so wonderful and so honest that you are in recovery.
Yeah.
How have you been coping with the holidays?
Well, you know, what's really important is that we always talk about how stressful the holidays are, but the reality is that if you're in recovery, because so many of us struggle, there is a ton of support during this season. There are Christmas parties, there are sober Christmas gatherings, there's a ton of information. If you're searching the internet, you can go on recoverywire.com. We're going to be posting things there. There is a lot of things to do. You know, it's all about getting active and you know, and taking an active role in making sure that you're this season.
You know, one of the other big stresses about Christmas is the expense, you know, especially because people they think they have to buy the nicest present. And, you know, it's such a materialistic environment. People can't afford Christmas. They go into debt for Christmas.
I know. That's scary too. You know, this year we decided we're putting a $15 limit. And you come up with some really creative ideas. We have a little 3-year-old nephew in our family, so we're going to spoil him, of course. But the adults, we said just a fun little gift for $15. You'd be surprised what you can find.
It's too bad Honest Ed's is closing down, though, because with those $15 gifts,
not for a couple,
we need them
not
back.
for a couple of years, though, so we can still go shopping there. So now, folks, it's your turn. We're going to take our first break on Living Clean, Living Well. But when we come back, we want to hear from you. Toll-free lines are open. How are you getting through the month of December? What are your plans? What are you thinking about as we head into this month? It's going to be your turn. Our first break, we'll be back.
It's scary to think that you're going to live the rest of your life without drugs and alcohol when it's all you've depended on. But there is hope. I knew I couldn't do it alone, and treatment allowed me the chance to ask for the help that I needed in order to believe that I could live a sober life. I got the help and support that I needed, and even now that I've left, I still have that support there.
Welcome back, everyone. My guest tonight on Living Clean, Living Well, our regular contributor, Dr. Vera Tarman, who is the medical director at Renascent, and also Dee Christensen joins us again. It's been a while. Good to see you. Editor-in-chief from Recovery Wire magazine. And tonight we are talking about coping with the holidays. Our toll-free lines are open for you. As always, any general questions that you may have. You don't need to be on topic. It's okay. Whatever you'd like to talk about, we are here, as long as it's got something to do with addictions and substance abuse and coping with what's the stressors that are going on in your life. And we have an awful lot of resources as well. So if we can't answer your question, we can definitely get you to the people then. So shall we open up our phone lines? We have a caller. Let's go to line 4. Calling in tonight from Toronto is Bob. Hi there, Bob. You're first up on our show tonight. Good to hear from you, and you're talking to Dr. Tarman and Dee. Go ahead.
Hello.
Hello, Bob.
Hello.
I was just wondering what the qualifications are for being a sponsor. I know that you have to have been clean for a year and have been, experienced in that, whatever it may be. But I don't have any addictions, and I've been a great support to somebody important in my life, and she agrees that I'm already a sponsor, but at the same time I think I might be, not. Like, what is it that you can actually tell me about this qualification of somebody being a sponsor?
That's a great question. Dr. Tarman, do you want to start out?
Sure. You know, as a medical director of Renascent is a rehab center that really follows the 12-step program. So I'm quite familiar with the program and the expectations. And with the sponsor, the really key thing is that the person has had the experience and can share that experience with their sponsee. They don't have to know anything more. They have to have hopefully read the book, the big book, or at least be willing to read the big book with the sponsee. But the key is that they've had that experience, they have that mutual understanding, and that they have some sobriety. They don't necessarily have to have a year of sobriety. That year is often important when you're trying to hire somebody, like at Renaissance. I think you have to have 2 years of sobriety. But as long as you have some sobriety, if you have something that the person wants, and presumably a few more days of sobriety is going to be the thing. But the key is that you have that common experience, because that's what you're sharing.
So in this case, it would be good for Bob still to be there, such a tremendous support,
absolutely,
we can
yes,
tell.
yes.
But it should be somebody from the recovery world, Dee?
Yeah, I mean, these are all guidelines. There is no real fixed rule necessarily. It's not like there's a set of like intrinsic governing. These are just guidelines that we've used, but they're guidelines that we've been passing down, addict to addict, alcoholic to alcoholic. So I think the important thing is, at the end of the day, on your worst moment, you want to be reaching out to someone that knows what it's like to be in that situation and that can give you practical input as to how to get through it.
As opposed to judgmental.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so it's not to say that you can't be a sponsor if that's what you want to call yourself, but I would certainly say that if I were in your position, I would also suggest that they get a second sponsor or support person who is in their shoes. Yeah.
Does that help, Bob?
Just to a degree, because at the same time, there is no other person at this point you can think of, and she's hitting the 90-day trigger point for her. For years and years, she's tried beyond 90 days and never made it. And I'm starting to feel that urge to just want to be there so that I can be that person to as that hand is shaking towards that use, that I could be the person to help calm that hand. But I've never been through recovery because I'm not an addict.
Right.
Yet for probably about a year, she says I've been the most important person, but it's only been the past 80 days that she's been clean. So it's going to get really tough in the next few weeks, and she knows her mind will start to play tricks on her, like really big tricks on her mind. She knows that, and she's been through it many, many years. After 3 months, she never makes it. So I'm feeling that pressure to be there, but yet there's no one else, and that's all. I've read the book, The Language of Letting Go, and other kind of support things, as well as a lot of literature on addictions and mental illness, and how mental illness and addiction is almost the same thing, or there's many, many similarities and all that. So I know how to be a good listener, but to be that sponsor, I wouldn't know how it feels to, other than be there to hold their hand and prevent it from happening. That moment of relapse, to prevent that, like I would like to do, like some kind of a guardian angel. If I could, I would pay for a sponsor for her, but I just can't.
So where does one go to find a sponsor?
Well, here's the interesting thing. When we want to get high and drunk, let me tell you, the lengths that we can go to achieve that are phenomenal. We are the most human beings on the planet. So I find it very interesting that I can tell you that if one of my sponsees shared this with me, what I would say to them is, it's almost impossible not to be able to find a sponsor, especially in Toronto, Canada. You know, in any major city, the number of 12-step groups in this city is over the top. The number of 12-step groups that actually open up asking how many people in the room are willing to be temporary sponsors, where people will just throw up their hands at the beginning of the meeting. Those are the things, Bob, that you wouldn't know because you haven't been in those rooms. So that's the important part about actually being someone who knows how to pass it down, who's had the experience. If you're not in the room, you don't know that. But I could tell you that you could convey to her, there are tons of meetings in this city where she can go to where people will volunteer to be her sponsor.
And the sponsor who has been through that experience would know that. Would not only know that, they'd also know that, that what they probably say is, look, I don't buy that story. If you look hard enough, you'll find. But you see, you wouldn't know that, Bob, because you don't have that understanding of how somebody will just not take that extra step because they may not really want to go there.
Yeah. You know, he brought up such a good point, too, about for whatever goes on in our life, where you set a certain level in your mind of, like for Bob's friend, it's 90 days. He's never made it past 90 days.
Yeah.
Here she is at 80 days. And if you set that, like, what do you do to get yourself over that plateau in your head when you're thinking, I can't get past a certain mark, a number, a date, whatever it is?
Well, I mean, what's happened there is the person has, not even realizing it, learned, it's almost operant conditioning. They've learned at 90 days, I get to relapse. It's a non-intellectual thing that happens. So somebody who knows that already will actually have to build in all sorts of safety around that 90-day mark.
And there's already a pattern emerging. If this were my story, I would say I'm already in danger. Because rather than reaching out to the people who will be able to call me on my stuff, I'm reaching out to someone who won't be able to call me on my stuff.
Exactly.
So already there's a big red flag in the air.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's not to say, can I just say
Yeah,
this?
go for it.
It's not to say, Bob, that what you can give is not, it is absolutely helpful. Like, having support in the way that you want to offer it is excellent. Like, please don't undermine what you can give.
So I guess the bottom line for Bob and his friend then is that Bob can continue on being that wonderful support.
Absolutely, and it will
you can
be
hear it in
helpful.
his voice how wonderful he is and
Yes.
how much he
Yeah.
cares.
Yes.
But to really get the job done and get past that plateau of 90 days,
Yes.
he's got to do what? His friend's got to do what? Find the sponsor,
Find a
right?
sponsor,
Right.
yes, yes. And maybe
right.
one more thing I'd like to say to you, Bob, is you said you want to be a guardian angel. Remember, you cannot be in charge of somebody else's recovery. If that person does relapse, it has nothing to do with your willingness and your desire to help her.
Yeah. Hey,
Don't
Bob.
take that on.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks so much for calling. What a great call to start our show off with. I've always said safe forums, and it's a forum, a safe haven for everyone to discuss, on topic or perhaps general questions. And I'm so glad you picked up the phone tonight. And we too can also be a resource for you and your friend. I hope you keep watching. Let's go down to line 1, and Ike's calling in tonight from Toronto. Hello there, Ike. It's your turn. Go ahead.
Hello, this question is for Dr. Tarman.
Hello? Hello, Ike?
Dr. Tarman, what are your recommendations when it comes to withdrawal off of methadone, like as far as tapering, a blind taper, and dosage?
If we were allowed to do blind tapers, that would be the magical solution. Not knowing what would just be so helpful, but it's not allowed. We just cannot allow that. The pharmaceutical industry, it's just technically not allowed to do that. So then the best thing to do would be really to do a slow taper, but a regular taper. Like, you want to do it. But very slow. It depends. If you're willing to be uncomfortable, you can do a quick one. But if discomfort is going to put you into relapse mode, then don't do it. But it's quite possible to do a taper, depending on what dose you're on, and get off within 6 months to a year. It's quite possible.
Dee, did you want to add anything? You don't have to if you don't want to.
No, I leave those questions to a medical expert. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you, Ike.
Yeah, thanks for calling in, Ike. Let's go to line 2 now. And calling in from Ottawa, our nation's capital, is Gord. Hi there, Gord. You're live on Living Clean, Living Well. Go ahead.
Hi, Merry Christmas to you. Icons there on TV of recovery.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah, that's the way I recognize.
And I'm glad somebody's
to
saying
put
Merry
a word
Christmas.
to it in your icons.
Oh, thank you.
One of the reasons I call is because tonight's the actual anniversary of my celebration. I got 30 years clean and sober today.
Oh, wow. Good for you.
Good for you.
Standing ovation.
The checklist.
Yeah.
The one about lower my expectations. That so got me when I saw that one.
Yeah.
And it was excellent. It's like, and I got fussy about what expectations I would let in, and they were all wrong, of course. But we have something here in Ottawa called In From the Cold, and NA puts on meals and a coffee house and cards
Right
and
on.
Scrabble for 24 hours at Christmas and 24 hours at New Year's. And we also have a dance here.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So NA is really happy about that in
Oh, yeah.
Ottawa
Yeah.
this year. And of course, I'm just too happy that I lived 30 years clean and sober. I figure, hey, life doesn't owe me a thing at this point. Anyway, I talk too much. Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
Gord, you do not. Thank you so much. You talk very well, and we're so glad with your input. Glad to hear from you in Ottawa and what you folks are doing there. And he brought up what he's doing. It was, what number was it on the list of helping others, right?
It was the
Helping others, number 9.
It was number 8.
Number
is,
9.
Number 8 as well, lowering your
And-
expectations.
yeah, but helping others too,
helping
with the
others.
in from the
Yeah.
cold.
So
That's what I'm
much.
talking about.
Yeah, exactly. And we do the same thing in Toronto. Most major cities do the same thing. We have
Yeah.
lots of things to reach out to people during the season.
Can I say something about expectations? I do want to say, it's not that you don't want to have expectations, because expectations, you want to have expectations. They get you up out of bed and doing things. The trick here is lower them in the sense of have expectations and then let go of the results. I mean, we have these expectations and we want it to happen. It's really about get out there, be motivated, but then let go of the results.
Awesome,
Yeah.
Let's go down to line 1, and Colleen's calling in from Toronto tonight. Hi, Colleen. You're on our show. Go ahead. You're talking to Dee and Dr. Tarman. Colleen, are you there?
I am.
Hey, honey, it's your turn. Go ahead. Have you got a question or a comment?
I do. I'm having a really hard time right now. I'm 11 years clean from cocaine, and I've got so much on my shoulders and no one to talk to. And
so you reached out to us
guess,
tonight.
I don't know. I'm just looking for ways to get the devil out.
Are you feeling that you're about to be triggered at all, Colleen?
I haven't used, no.
Yeah.
No, I've smoked some marijuana, but, you know, it's not the same. And I've just got, I've lost my legs. I'm in a wheelchair. Well, I have my legs, but I can't walk. I'm in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
And I think that took a lot of my life away. And I'm not feeling sorry for myself because it happens. It's life. We go on. But this craving I keep having for Coke, not crack, just Coke lines, is just starting to become overwhelming.
Colleen, I'm going to let you talk to Dr. Tarman right now.
Did you say that you smoked marijuana tonight, or just that you also smoke marijuana? Colleen?
Sorry?
Did you smoke some marijuana tonight?
Earlier.
Yeah, okay. I'm just wondering because that might be contributing to the mood that you're feeling right now. Marijuana is a drug that's pretty potent too. And my suggestion, I have two suggestions. One, that even though you might not be doing cocaine, if you're doing other drugs, they are just as mood altering. And even if you're on antidepressants, you're taking drugs that are not going to let those antidepressants do their trick. And if you're not, I mean, in any case, drugs will really alter mood, including marijuana. That's the first thing I want to say. And then the second is, if you, it sounds like you're very alone and alienated or isolated. And I would say, get to a CA meeting. There are a lot of meetings out there, and I'm going to guess that you're not connected right now. I mean, I might be wrong. You can correct me if I'm wrong.
Are you connected with any groups right now, like Cocaine Anonymous, anything like that, Colleen?
Nothing.
You see, that's the whole thing, that their number one statement is you're no longer alone when you go to those meetings. I mean, Dee, if you want to...
Yeah, that was the first thing I was thinking, is just that you're speaking a language that makes sense to me, and my first thought was just, we need to get you around people that are speaking your language, Colleen, and you're lucky enough to be in a major city that it has a ton of wheelchair accessible meetings, you know, and CA is an incredibly active program in the city of Toronto. There are a lot of amazing things going on in CA through Toronto, so this is a great time to start getting involved. And because it's this time, people will really wrap their arms around you and embrace you to get you through this silly season. But the first thing is just get